the title that has been announced is the second one after the launch. Now it's the introduction into personalized and precision healthcare services as applicable to clinical neurology. Unfortunately, I have been flying about 30 hours from San Francisco to New Zealand, from New Zealand here. It's being close to crazy.
Why you do that?
Yeah. I would try to survive. Over the course of its history, medicine and healthcare philosophy have given special attention to the already diseased individual, focusing on a type of clinically manifested disease, so-called nosology, rather than on one's health or the so-called pre-illness conditions, while the latter being left in the shade. Whilst analyzing and pre-selecting determinants of health, very brief here, a group of the well-known and recognized experts in the area, mostly from Stanford University, from Heidelberg University, from UCSF in San Francisco, and from Cambridge, has presented an evidence-based and well-documented assessment of global trends in medicine and healthcare development, and stressed the exclusive value of the next step model in contrast to traditional hypocrites of healthcare services being entitled as personalized precision medicine, in brief, PPM. This strategy being framed within PPM would give a genuine opportunity to secure preventive, prophylactic, therapeutic, and rehabilitative measures whose individualization could have a significantly positive influences on demographics. PPM as being the grand challenge to forecast, to predict, and to prevent is rooted in a big and new science generated by the achievements of systems biology and translational medicine, connecting basic research and daily clinical practice, whilst integrating platforms of omics technologies, whose data is analyzed, integrated, mined, and clinically interpreted by a set of algorithms and software of bioinformatics, artificial intelligence, machine learning, natural language, and now finally blockchain, and are implemented into the daily practice to secure clinical, traditional, subclinical, new generation, prognostic and predictive manipulations being personalized. PPM is a goal of healthcare in which diagnostic and treatment decisions are informed by each person's unique clinical, basics, omics, and environmental, so-called exposemics related information. To implement PPM resources into clinical practice, there is a strong need to develop a principally new strategy based on biomarkers, To really understand PPM, we would have to exploit and practice it, and genomic tools in particular. So genomics is considered to be a set of the unique biomarkers and thus the molecular translational tools to probe human genome for its quality, and now even be tested for predictive and prognostic biomarkers. Ideally, the identification of a new specific biomarker of disease vulnerability, such as genomic biomarker, would be matched with a specific predictive diagnostic program or clinical protocol and therapeutic intervention that target that vulnerability. Improved patient outcomes with the use of biomarker tests must consider not only increased survival or quality of life, but also improved clinical decision support and making. It's just the illustration, final decision being made. As you might see, having access to genomic information will become increasingly valuable and important as physicians are progressively receptive to incorporating genomics into clinical practice. Meanwhile, a combination of genomic and phenotypic biomarkers are becoming of great significance to be translated into the daily practice to predict risks of the chronification and thus of disabling. So a combination of genomic, for example, proteomic biomarkers are becoming of great significance to be applied into clinical practice of PPM. It's becoming clearer and clearer that further development of molecular diagnostics, risk prediction algorithms, and clinical decision support is strongly needed. PPM is based on the idea that individuals differ in many aspects, including their genotype, phenotype, lifestyle, and environment, and that those differences can have a significant impact on disease development and the response to treatment. Therefore, by taking into account those individual differences, PPM can help to identify the most effective treatment for patient, canonical one, and pre-illness person at risk, preventive or prophylactic approaches. In this sense, neurodegenerative disorders and NDD are promisingly suited phenomenal models for PPM. I mean, Parkinson, Alzheimer, and multiple sclerosis, because of the rapidly expanding genetic knowledge base, phenotypic classification, the development of biomarker panels, and the potential modifying treatments. And the considerations make it clear that PPM could transfer clinical care among NDDs and could lead to the treatment framework of them. The NDD-related field has enjoyed extremely limited success in the development of effective therapeutics. Standard clinical trials have predetermined a single treatment modality, which may be unrelated to the primary drivers of neurodegeneration. The potential benefits of PPM in the area of NDDs are significant by identifying biomarkers and disease subtypes, I mean endophenotypes. PPM can help to diagnose the disease earlier and more accurately, precisely, as well as predict disease course and response to treatment. Furthermore, by developing targeted therapies, PPM can improve treatment efficacy and reduce the risk of lots of adverse effects. So, precision diagnostic as a crucial portion of PPM is a critical component in NDDs and essential for the successful implementation. The identification of accurate and reliable biomarkers of different generations, cellular, molecular, and now network-based NBB biomarkers and imaging techniques can help to diagnose the disease earlier and more accurately, predict disease course and response to treatment, and monitor the disease progression. However, the implementation of precision diagnostics in the field of NDDs also requires addressing several challenges, including the development of affordable and accessible technologies and the standardization of diagnostic, predictive, and prognostic criteria. In recent years, significant progress has been made in the development of biomarkers and imaging techniques for monitoring NDDs and multiple sclerosis, MS in particular. It's just the overview. Meanwhile, precision as a term in therapeutic focus aims to determine the best approach, not only to treat, to prevent, to diagnose, and to treat, in which what's measured is linked to outcomes and relevant clinical unmet needs. By delivering differentiated therapies in areas of critical unmet need, and by creating and leveraging advances in PPM-driven neurology across several key areas, we aim to lead the precision revolution in neuroscience as a whole, to reduce the burden and disability caused by serious disorders. Briefly, just for overviewing, modern therapeutic models and approaches as applicable to PPM and the PPM-related NDDs. Cellular therapies. For instance, only supportive care is provided for ALS patients, and no effective treatment or cure has been discovered yet. To date, the therapeutic potential of cell-based therapies in ALS has not been fully assessed, given the paucity of high-quality clinical trials. For instance, adaptive mode of clinical trials in contrast to preceding ones. Based on data from preclinical studies, cell-based therapies anyway a promising treatment for LS and related. It's just the overview of stem cell therapies in ALS. Meanwhile, the quest for disease-modifying therapies in ALS has several obstacles. The most important being the suboptimal quality of the design of clinical trials and the clinical and pathological heterogeneity of the disease. And there is no cure for ALS right now. The field of design-inspired and biotech-driven translational research and applications in the field is very important for human beings. In the last years, the use and integration of high throughput omics approaches have dramatically changed our thinking about ALS, improving our understanding of the complex molecular architecture of the disorder, distinguishing distinct patient subtypes, and subtypes, and providing a rational foundation for the discovery of biomarkers and new individualized treatment. Anyway, modern PPM-guided neurology urgently needs panels of predictive and informative biomarkers, biomarker-driven targets, and targeted drugs, finally, of the next step generation with newer indications in the treatment of ALS. Following cell therapy, genome editing. It's just the overview of the application of genome therapy and editing in neurodegenerative diseases. Third step, targeted therapy is a way to recommend a therapeutic protocol being tailored individually and to secure the highest clinical efficacy and the minimized adverse effects and reactions. Alzheimer. The underlying heterogeneous etiology and diverse symptoms of AD suggest that a PPM-driven and guided strategy is required, which would take into account the complex genetic, epigenetic, and environmental landscape of each AD patient or pre-AD person at risk. Their specific patterns could represent the basis for novel, individually tailored approaches aimed to optimize PPM-guided strategies for AD prevention and canonical treatment. Currently, diagnosis and management of pre-early subclinical AD are largely guided by clinical symptoms. The efficacy of a treatment could be better evaluated if efficient biomarkers are available. FDA-approved biomarkers can aid detection and diagnosis, but the clinical implementation of those testing modalities is limited, highly limited, because of availability, cost, and perceived invasiveness. Meanwhile, blood-based biomarkers may enable earlier and faster diagnosis to secure the risk assessment, early, pre-early detection, prognosis, and management. As a result of translational research and application, aducanumab being in the phase 4 trial. First FDA-approved moiety that suppresses the blood-brain barrier, BBB, and reduces amyloid plaques in the brain, thereby reducing associated cognitive decline. It's just the overview of the letter. Other drugs are also under clinical trial and has recently been approved by the FDA and is also discussed. Some other design-driven therapeutic modes, including active and passive immunotherapy for AD, as well as several vaccines, even such as amyloid beta epitope-based vaccines, amyloid beta DNA vaccines, and stem cell therapy for AD, which are in clinical trials as well. Just the overview. MS, multiple sclerosis. The improved understanding of MS neurobiology, alongside the development of novel markers of disease, will allow PPM to be applied for MS patients, bringing the promise of improved care. Combinations of clinical and paraclinical data are currently used for diagnosis and prognosis. The addition of advanced MSI and biofluid markers has been strongly encouraged, since classifying MS patients and pre-MS persons at risk according to the neurobiology principles. For example, siponimod and acrelizumab. If you would not mind, half a minute, read you through, please. The latest therapeutic modes for MS are broadly used given their proven efficacy in the relapsing form of the disease, while biomarker-driven medicines as applicable to the therapeutic advances in MS. This whole scope. Of special significance for MS, catalytic antibodies, enzymes, which have proved to be greatly informative and thus valuable biomarkers to monitor MS at both subclinical and clinical stages. I would share with you this information in detail at the next speech. Personalized aims and objectives exist at every stage of disease initiation and progression to develop a personalized health plan, addressing lifestyle, risk modification, and disease management, and later personalized health management and wellness program. The implementation in this sense of PPM in the field of NDDs also requires addressing several challenges, including the standardization of diagnostic criteria and treatment guidelines, the development of affordable and accessible technologies and therapies, and the ethical and legal considerations of personalized treatment. As you might see from the above mentioned, PPM has drastically changed and is keeping on changing the landscape of healthcare. This approach, PPM and PPM-guided clinical neurology mentioned, should be based on postulates which will change the incarnate culture and social mentality. Since the ground change and challenge to secure our health and wellness are rooted not in medicine and not even in science, just imagine where, in high-tech culture. Thank you so much for your patience.